Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next TMNT Season 5 episode review. This one's going to be for episode 5 and 6, which is the two-parter When Worlds Collide. Overall, I thought these two together made for a okay two-parter. They really didn't impress me massively in that it was a two-parter in the last season that obviously represented a lot of the space arc stuff, and that we had a lot of the villains kind of introduced there, kind of coming into more Earth situations, and we dealt with it. Of course, we're doing a kind of short story style thing now at the moment with the arcs, so it was interesting to see how they approached it. I liked that at the start of the episode they kind of used the fact that, oh, all these other turtles kind of seem to have someone that they're either in a strong relationship with or potentially actually boyfriend and girlfriend. And Raph, who's probably been the most clear about oh, he's in a relationship with Mona Lisa, she's away from him. And so I like that to a degree in the background there was this kind of romance kind of plot to the entire two-parter. Again, I still will be quite critical of the show for being very vague about April and Donatello. You know, okay, this episode, just because of the whole comparison thing that they were doing, they seem to emphasize April and Donatello, but I don't think you could just say, just based on this episode, that they're a couple. Similarly with, Leo and Karai. I think they're eventually going to commit to that relationship, but as of yet, they haven't quite done that. They still kind of hold back from it, but I did like the kind of comparison of just, Karai being I can't believe, Raph is attracted to a giant newt, and then she looks at Leo and she's just oh, because obviously I think it made it pretty clear here that Karai likes Leo and Leo likes Karai, so I think that will happen eventually, and I think it's quite fitting. And then Mikey and Rennet, or whatever her name is just okay, they're actually just continuing with that, they're in communication with each other, that's fine. And then I suppose the core of this episode by the end was just that Mona Lisa basically made the decision to actually stay on Earth, which was really cool to see. I was kind of expecting it to be another case of, oh, she has to go off on her own again and leave Raph, but I like that she's going to be here. The only problem, I think, is that production number wise, this episode is these two episodes are from much later on in the season as far as I'm aware, so I'm kind of wondering if we'll just not have Mona Lisa for a while. If I remember correctly, I think these two episodes are meant to be production number 9 and 10. So I'm wondering, will we kind of, when we get the production number episode 5, 6, 7, 8, will they just not feature Mona Lisa? And then it's just assumed that this happens. So the continuity is a little bit out of whack just because of their airing these in completely different production order. In that the next episodes are going to be the Usagi arc, where they introduce that ninja rabbit guy, and I think that's a 3-parter, and that's from much later on in the season again. I think that's 14, 15, and 16 or something like that. So that'll be interesting to see just how the continuity works overall, but I think it is a success that the show has Mona Lisa present, in that it feels like at the very least they're probably going to build towards the last episode having a happy ending for most of the turtles, and that they're all in a relationship. Maybe they're all present on Earth and can have active relationships, and that you have those 4 key relationships actually there and very clear that they're happening. And I think that would be actually a fine thing to do. Yes, it's a bit disappointing that not all of those characters necessarily had good character arcs, but maybe them just having a good relationship is enough to end the series on a good note. As for the plot of this episode, I thought the plot was definitely quite weak, and it suffered from the usual issues of this show of okay, here's a plot, here is a lot of action that is required to have this plot, here's a lot of fight scenes that are very generic, and power level stuff is just all over the place because, okay, here's another fight where the turtles can't do anything against the villain, and they just have to wait for another weird power-up situation to happen, and then they can defeat the villain. In this case, it was Neutralizer comes back, has electric powers, they struggle to defeat him. Mikey gets kind of killed by Neutralizer, then comes back also with electric powers, and Mikey is the one who defeats Neutralizer more or less overall. We also have the Dreg guy, the insect overlord guy, who is one of the worst villains I think in the entire show, come back and again be quite disappointing as a villain. Somewhat of a threat, but it's just another attempted invasion by the villains that happens again. We've seen this so many times in this show, it just has no impact. That, oh, the city's being invaded again. They're trying to make it big. I don't really care massively. They didn't put a lot of emphasis on the fact that Mikey was quote unquote killed. They didn't put a lot of emphasis on the fact that the city's being invaded. It was just, it happened. Like, a lot of characters got kidnapped by Dreg and Neutralizer, but it was just like, fine, we'll work on our own. And they like have Bishop involved in the episode, and Mona Lisa, of course, the Salamander Commander guy as well. And it's just like, okay, this is fine. You're using a lot of the cast that you do have. I think Mona Lisa is probably one of the better supporting cast members, and having her around, and it's seeming like they're going to pair her up with the Mighty Mutanimals is going to be interesting whenever they commit to that. But I got to say, a lot of the main focus of this episode was just very, very average. There was just not a lot of interesting stuff going on screen. I think it was action and intensity completely at the expense of anything notable, like character-wise happening. The plot being actually, like, I think, interesting was very much taken away from, and it just really highlighted a lot of the facts of just like, it never is massively clear that the turtles have actually like grown as fighters, because they're always put up against characters who are just instantly defeat them, and it requires a plot crazy thing to happen to actually defeat them in the end. And in this case, you had so many like notably like relatively strong characters, and to them just get like owned completely by Neutralizer is just, it feels like the show is just kind of all over the place. Like, I think Leo is the main one. You give him the big victory that he killed Shredder, and he's just getting tossed around by Neutralizer here. I get Neutralizer established to be like a energy-based power guy, but like Leo doesn't really put up much of a fight at all, and that was very disappointing to see in this episode. That there's just no sense in the writing that they're aware of like the position that Leo should be in as a fighter compared to the other characters, and so on. And that, like, again, I like that they used Mikey with the whole superpower thing. It was fitting that he was the character who got that, and he could make the most use of it. But at the same time, like, I don't get why like you are not even attempting to make Leo out to be something notable. It's like they just completely ignore continuity for the sake of like, oh, let's have a joke thing where Mikey gets a superhero power and wins the day. But yeah, I think that's most of what I want to say about this episode. It really didn't impress me in a lot of ways. I think the main positives are that I like that they at least referenced a lot of the romance stuff. I liked that Mona Lisa is sticking around, and I think that's about it for the most part. Obviously, as I said, we're doing these kind of short story type things, so like it's not like this is directly going to lead into what happens next. It's just like a short story. Like, there was no reference to the previous thing with Cavaxis or whatever his name was, the dragon guy from the previous arc. And I assume that's just the way it's going to be, except for maybe the last couple of episodes. So, it's interesting to have Turtles back for sure. And I'm a little late on this one because I just completely forgot that the show was back, such as how bad the advertising is and how much I think the excitement around this show has really calmed down because of all these breaks. But I think it looks like we're back, and it looks like they're going to kind of speed through the episodes. From the impression I get is that they're kind of going to air a lot of episodes like this, that they're basically going to air the full arcs and weekly. Like, we got these 2 episodes I think last weekend. I think coming in the next day or two is the 3-parter Usagi Yojimbo arc, or whatever his name is. And then I assume they will probably want to do the same thing with the rest of the episodes, because if they're airing production number at least 15 episode, then I have no reason to assume why they can't air the actual production 505, 506, 507, 508, and so on. So yeah, hopefully we run through this pretty quickly. I think it makes sense that they really do get through this last season quite quickly, and we're not here for like potentially like how many more episodes are to go, like 14 more weeks or something like that. I do think we really need to pick up the pace to get through these episodes, because I do think the show feels like it is done at this point. That yes, we'll probably get a nice ending, maybe one or two notable moments, but really the show was kind of done with season 4, and this is just the last chance to do a lot of other stuff with it. Again, my only real hope for the remainder of the episodes is just do something character-wise, and at this point, given that they're really not doing anything just yet, it's just end it on a good note. Make this series worthwhile and have a really nice ending to the show. And for me, I think the only way to do that at this point is to just kind of confirm a lot of the romances and just make it really clear what's going on. But yeah, that's been my review for this 2-part arc of Turtles Season 5. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on these episodes, as well as what I had to say here in the review. But that has been today's video. Thanks for watching, and bye.